Welcome to another fanfiction recap. Today, I'll be reviewing There's Something About Rosie. There's Something About Rosie is a mixture of horror and adventure, and it's about the side effects of parasocial relationships. A controversy that's rampant in almost every corner. It isn't exactly appropriate for Gacha, but in a fandom full of people claiming to be dating or pregnant with a fictional character, it's for the best if we bring this problem up. There's Something About Rosie is inspired and based on the Sonic fanfiction There's Something About Amy, a web series created by the British animation channel MASH. I assume they're British due to the Channel 4 logo appearing at the end of their videos a lot, aka a channel responsible for Friday Night Dinner, Miranda and Don't Hug Me I'm Scared. I know what you're thinking. Why did I make a Gacha story based on a series by an adult channel? Look, I know everyone likes to talk about Elsa Gate polluting children's minds with all the but there were also times when we used to watch stuff for adults at the same age. I'm saying this because when I was 13, I used to watch those Sonic shorts on Sonic Paradox, and I reckon you did too. Near said age. My mum was thankfully chill. Anyway, before I go further down a rabbit hole, don't. It's about time I answer that question. This was requested by Rahira. Rahira is one of my viewers and she asked me to write a fanfiction based on There's Something About Amy. Only she takes the role of Amy and the Joy Joy gang takes the role of Sonic. Since I tend to experiment with ideas from viewers, I gave it a try. Was it a good idea? That's why I'm reviewing it. Trigger warnings include yandere vibes, themes of burning alive, mild gore, robot violence and some flashing lights. Now, unlike most of my Dark Perception fanfictions, this fanfiction isn't canon to my Stound series I hope to start on AO3 soon. Instead, I like to call it Storytime with Dolly, where I, Dolly Darling, tell stories to my friends. I got inspired by Pinky Dinky Doo, a cartoon about a girl named Pinky telling made-up stories to her little brother, Tyler, and their pet guinea pig, Mr. Guinea Pig, in her storybox. And judging from the year it was released, you can tell it was a weird show. Anyway, my made-up story begins with some internet friends and I logging onto a video call. Once our cameras are on, it's revealed that Rahira has a cold. Fortunately, now that I'm here, I can tell stories to help her cope. After joking about your typical in love with the mafia leader who keeps me in his basement Gacha story YouTube likes to recommend instead of actual stories that care, I could just start on There's Something About Rosie. Oh, I really must mention this. If you're new, I use text-to-speech voices on cameos because I'm uncomfortable with voicing real-life viewers.
Well, Dolly's here now. She can tell stories.
In my Stound series, this text-to-speech voice is due to set of viewers and internet browsers typing in what they want to say. As if their avatar is inside a virtual world like in Hatsune Miku Colourful Stage. Here though, I just wanted to respect their privacy. That's my alibi at least. Fortunately, there's still real voice acting, and ever since the release of Lonely Door, it's inspired me to try harder with the voice acting until I'm recognised and trusted. Anyway, the real story begins in Joy Joy Land during the school summer holidays, and Rahira is seen walking through the plaza. Yeah, she's wearing a princess costume, but from what I've seen in Disneyland POV videos, a lot of people will actually tend to cosplay or dress up in such districts. And given how Joy Joy Land has similar vibes to Disneyland, I'd say the royalty outfit suits the scene just fine. Anyway, Rahira is on the search for the Joy Joy gang, the magnum opus of the theme park resort. She eventually finds them in their shared dressing room and offers them some ribs she presumably ordered from the food court off-screen. This is where she introduces a new holiday she made up, Joy Joy Day. According to her, Joy Joy Day is when people spend time with the Joy Joy gang all day and do activities together. I don't know about you, But if that were a real holiday, I'd certainly celebrate it. Although thankful for the offer, Lucky and Penny don't appreciate her sneaking into staff only and suggest she leaves before someone finds out. Hangry took the ribs though. Confused and upset, Rahira returns to her hotel room, trying to process if they actually wanted to spend time with her or not. Suddenly, there's an explosion from another hotel room, so she enters the hallway to investigate. Running from said room is her friend Georgia, upset from the noise. I'll admit, perhaps I could have given her a longer skirt. Now, Georgia has revealed that she's autistic and ADHD, which explains why she's overstimulated yet still able to talk to Rahira. It turns out that her mum tried to make lunch, but lunch suddenly exploded. She eventually realizes that Rahira is also upset. Rahira then explains that she finally found the Joy gang, but they denied time with her. Feeling bad, Georgia decides to help her. She lets her know that her mum is thinking of taking her to one of the restaurants for lunch in order to make up for the mess that happened. This is where she reveals her plan. If Rahira were to ignore the Joy gang, then perhaps they'd want her more. Later that afternoon, Georgia's mum takes both her daughter and Rahira to a pizza parlour called Joy Pizza. As they wait for their orders, Rahira reminds herself to ignore whichever mascot serves them. Ironically, the mascot serving their pizza happens to be Hangry, her favourite character, and as predicted, it didn't work, which upsets her. You know what? It's about time I clear the vent. Green screening Gacha characters in CapCut is hard, so expect a lot of green areas around the characters. It's also hard syncing the green screened characters, so they'll tend to flash for a bit, which could be dangerous for those with epilepsy. Anyway, as the girls start to eat their pizza, Georgia comes up with another idea: be assertive. Unfortunately, she overlooks the concept and says that it involved backhanded compliments. Now a lesson on why backhanded compliments aren't a good idea for making friends. Later on, they're at a meet and greet where they can have a photo with the Joy gang. After Georgia's turn, it's Rahira's turn. This gives her the chance to be assertive and compliments Lucky's shoes when insulting his rabbit feet. Speaking of his shoes, I didn't give him flip-flops because last I remember, flip-flops are banned in Italy due to the annoying noise. Can't blame them. Being a bad rabbit, Lucky compliments the colour of Rahira's cosplay dress and at the same time insults it, bringing up that old controversy where the colour purple used to be a covert gay colour. Fact, that was actually one of the reasons why some bloke considered Tinky Winky to be controversial for kids. The other reasons being how his aerial is a triangle, the covert shape back then, and how he carried a bright red bag. He's not gay, he's not straight, he's just a character in a children's series, according to the creators. Anyway, Rahira retorts that at least she washes her covert gay dress, unlike Lucky who still wears his gloves every day. Finally fed up with the time wasted, Lucky denies a photo, sending her into another breakdown. She's so mortified, she returns to her hotel with Georgia. At this point, she's worried now. She's so touch-starved and can't think of anything else other than the Joy gang. She won't give up on her goal. Georgia then comes up with yet another idea, only this one is illegal. She suggests changing herself, guessing that it could just be her. At that moment, I started to feel guilty for writing Georgia this way. She's quite a nice viewer in real life. But hear me out. There's a resolver later on in the story. Anyway, the way to change her would be to make her more like what the Joy gang desire. To do that, they would have to sneak into the Joy castle at night once everyone's asleep. Georgia's admittedly hesitant with the idea, but Rahira insists that they give it a try. She wants to make the Joy gang happy in any way possible. Feeling bad for her, Georgia eventually agrees to help her sneak into the castle. That night, they actually hatch their plan, and Georgia takes Rahira to the processing plant with all that lava. Once they get there, Rahira starts to feel sleepy from the heat. I didn't mean it like that. Before Georgia can warn her, Rahira suddenly knocked into the lava by a passing mascot. Before anyone comments, can't believe I'm saying this in 2025, we're not all kids. I'm 25 and Rahira has confirmed that she's 22. If she were a child, I wouldn't put her through this. I know there's grammar errors in her usual comments and she comes off as childish, but I assume English is her second language and she probably has my condition? Also, childish adults are allowed. Clearly, you've never heard of kidcore. By now, Georgia is devastated that she lost her friend. Even with the amount of thoughts, she suddenly has a perfect idea, perhaps the perfect idea, an idea that will help her find the Joy Joy gang for real. After who knows how long, Rahira suddenly wakes up to find herself in the parts and service area with Georgia in her view. This time, she feels different, but she's elated with this. Different is good. Later on during the night, the second part starts with Lucky sleeping, recharging, when Penny suddenly barges into his room. She tells him that she heard a noise, so they both investigate. In one of the hallways, they find Hangry staring into the break room kitchen with late night snacks in his arms. It turns out that someone had placed ribs on the table, but who? The culprit then reveals herself. It's Rahira, but it isn't Rahira anymore. She now refers to herself as Rosie the Alicorn Cat. Understandably, the Joy Joy gang are disturbed by her new style. Rosie, however, is confused. She did all this for them, and even admits that she's slowly losing herself to the searing pain. But you can't go back. She has them now. Lucky's still disturbed, even calling her out for it, but Rosie flies into denial mode, persisting that she found her place. When Lucky tries to escort her out, she suddenly lashes out and grabs him by the wrists. It actually takes Penny and Hangry to restrain her, causing her to beg and plead to stay, but Lucky won't budge, even begging for her to stay away from him. Now that it's gotten quiet a bit, Lucky finally tells the truth. He and the gang actually wanted to spend time with her for the day, but they couldn't do it because they were busy. Now that they've seen what she's become, they don't feel comfortable with her around anymore. She won't become part of the Joy Joy gang. After telling his friends to escort her out of the castle, he leaves to call an ambulance. I don't know why, she seems as if it's not enough. Rosie is now desperate to the point where she snaps and starts attacking his henchmen. She rips the beak off Penny and delivers the final blow to her off screen. The chicken's scream can be heard by Lucky, who investigates. Penny's now harshly dismantled, and as Rosie keeps her word that she'll stay, lashes out at Hangry, pulling his arm off and sending him to the floor. Lastly, it's Lucky's turn, and for once, he doesn't feel lucky enough to take her on. She's even too fast for him. She hovers over, collides into him, repeatedly punches him until he loses an eye, all while Hangry is forced to watch and finally throws him over to Hangry, killing both boys on impact. She's unaware of this until she finally catches her breath and is devastated. Rosie had killed her idols. This wasn't her intention. She just wanted love, friendship, comfort, but her new parasocial state of mind wouldn't let her. She's now a different person, not even a person anymore, just a rejected mascot who feels unwanted and abandoned. She had to change her life for the worse just to get to this point. Before she could lose all hope, however, she remembers Georgia.
In the next part, Rosie takes Hangry's disembodied head back to the parts and service room and asks Georgia if she can fix the Joy Joy gang. Georgia, however, assures her that the underground facility has a cloning machine, so the staff can just fix them tomorrow morning, but she still insists that they leave while they still can, or they'll get into lots of trouble. While walking through the hallways, Rosie explains what upsets her the most. She feels ashamed of herself because she sacrificed her old life just to be with them, yet she let all of it go to her head. Worse still, she was so close to achieving her goal, yet she ruined everything and changed their minds. Unexpectedly, Georgia begins to laugh like crazy. Once she finally gets a word out, she exposes the truth. The Joy Joy gang did want her from the start, but they were too busy. In fact, we even get a flashback showing what happened behind the scenes. Lucky lectures Penny for denying the hard work Rahira, now Rosie, had to go through in order to buy ribs for everyone. After Hangry takes the ribs, Lucky then lectures Hangry for doing the same thing. Actually, I don't know why I added this scene. Did I add it twice? I'll have to rewatch the mini-movie. Georgia then confesses that she set the whole thing up. We get flashbacks again, showing more behind-the-scenes footage. Outside of a public toilet, Hangry confesses how he'd love to spend time with her and expresses how wonderful it would be to have a new member. but he's too embarrassed to tell her all this after the way he acted. Georgia advises him to ignore her while he serves them at the same restaurant, Joy Joy Pizza. Obviously, we know how that went. In the next flashback, Georgia expresses sympathy to the Joy Joy gang during the meet and greet and advises them to act assertive. Again, we all know how that went. In the last flashback, Georgia assures an embarrassed Lucky that during the evening,
Future Dolly here, just wanted to let you know that I made that joke before I knew what Griffin Poto said about Chris Noyce, if that's how you pronounce his surname.
she and her friend will be able to visit them thanks to backstage passes. It's sad to know that Lucky full-on trusted her. Understandably, Rosie feels betrayed that her friend would go behind her back like that. It was her that stopped her from joining the Joy Joy gang. Georgia, however, retorts that they weren't the real Joy Joy gang, claiming them to be knockoffs. When Rosie backs up until she opens the door behind her, she suddenly finds light coming from the next room, which she investigates. It turns out to be a soul shard containing another Georgia, the real Georgia. This Georgia explains that she was trapped inside and that the Georgia she had been spending time with was an imposter all along. And she's right. The real Georgia would never do all those things. The fake Georgia, however, reveals their true form, Lord Malik. One thing I just processed, finally, is the metaphor. Malik claims to be the devil on Rosie's shoulder. In Dark Deception, there's an ongoing debate on who Doug should trust. Malik at one point says that if Doug were to actually survive everything and give him the ring, he would fulfill his goal and bring his wife and daughter back. I wouldn't be surprised if he does this to all of his clients. Even Rosie. Rosie is realistically enraged that he would set her up and ruin her life, so she lashes out again, seeing nothing but red. Struggling to breathe, how, Malik tells her that without him, she'll never find the Joy Joy gang. She releases her grasp and tries to process this new information, eventually reminding him that the Joy Joy gang will never forgive her because she dismantled them. Malik reminds her that they're not the real Joy Joy gang, but insists that he can take her to the real one if she listens to him some more. With nowhere else to go, Rosie goes along with him and does what he says. She's tasked with lying on the floor while Malik enters her mind. In the final part, Rosie wakes up in a dark corridor, finding herself with Malik. She's afraid at first, who wouldn't be, but Malik is able to console her, telling her that they would be walking through these corridors during her adventure. Now that her energy's back, she's ready to follow him as they walk through the hallway. At some point, they come across a portal, and through it, Rosie can see herself, or perhaps who she used to be. Then Malik reminds everyone that I know my lore, even explaining it to her. He tells her about how behind each portal is a nightmare. The nightmares are able to exist thanks to the ring pieces. The ring pieces were part of the riddle of heaven, which he had to break in order to punish one of his older clients. He scouted for Rosie so she could help him scavenge for the ring pieces. Rosie, though, just wants the Joy Joy gang. Very much. Taken back from how she reacted, Malik continues to take her forwards. Eventually, they reach their destination, the new Joy Joy land, which looks like paradise to her. All she has to do is retrieve the ring pieces and then she'll get her wish. Rosie is pleased to accept and starts her quest. Here's the plot twist in her story. Remember when I said that Malik enters her mind? That means she's actually lucid dreaming. Her real body is unconscious and in a deep sleep. Not even the evacuation alarm can wake her up. Back at the hotel, Georgia's mum is running through her own hallways while trying to find the girls. By the way, I had to change her eye colour after Georgia corrected some things. Everyone's panicking and outside is even worse. Tortured souls are haunting the streets and an apocalypse is happening. It's as if Beers can see it all from her burning ballroom, hoping that Rosie makes the right choice. That's it. That's the first volume. The story isn't even that long. There's one more thing left to show. After the character showcase, we cut back to the video chat room where I conclude the first part of There's Something About Rosie. My internet friends compliment it and I allow them to ask questions just in case if the viewer started to ask them. Rahira asks why I decided to name the story after Rosie instead of her. I say that it's because I thought Rosie had more screen time. Georgia asks if the story was canon to my headcanon. I say no because there would be plot holes. This is a different alternative timeline. Eve asks if they'll ever see Rosie in my future Gacha videos. I say that it depends if people want to see her. I'll admit, wouldn't it be interesting if Rosie met Yumi's OC Sugar Bunny? Obviously, if Rosie were to appear, I would have to change her laws so as not to confuse anyone. Speaking of Yumi, she asks why Malik would want to use Rosie as his puppet to collect ring pieces. I say that I wanted to give the story speculation after inspiration from Alan's Scene Party, one of those digital flash game videos. A year later and I'm still worried if it's become a subgenre like those Walton File dupes. Mary, aka the voice of Enna Goth from my Enna voice claim video, asks if I'll write a prequel story inspired by the secret history of Sonic the Hedgehog. I just say that it depends if anybody wants that to happen. Remember, I only wrote this story to experiment. I don't want to rely on an adult channel too much or I'll go against my channel age rating. Sour Smiles has already become controversial thanks to one of the antagonists, but at least it isn't the coffin of Andy and Lele. Now the elephant in the room. A constant nagging thought I had while writing the story last year. Devil asks if it's too risky of me to copy someone else's work, because content stealing is still a problem in the Gacha community. I assure everyone that there's a difference between stealing and borrowing inspiration, bringing up the Family Guy parody of Star Wars. I even explain that Seth created the parody as a love letter to the director of Star Wars. In other words, There's Something About Rosie is a love letter to Mashed. I hope people are knowing the correct difference nowadays. Devil then mentions that Rosie's transformation reminds her of William Afton's Law, aka Where I Found Inspiration. Though I also admit that it's a bit of an overused backstory and mascot horror, but still a claustrophobic fate worse than death, which explains why it's used a lot. Besides, at least I didn't take the Garden of Banban route.
At least you didn't use clay for a host body.
I then go on to explain the moral of the story, which you already know by now. This time, I'll be more in depth. Parasocial relationships are dangerous if you take them too seriously. Admiring your comfort character is fine, so is finding them attractive and imagining scenarios with them, but remember to know the difference between fiction and real life. Be careful with real life too. What's ironic is that I show Dream Barbecue Anna as an example, and you know what? It actually aged quite well, because after the release of Lonely Door, a lot of fans find this Anna attractive. Whether it's the body language, skin-tight shorts, hips, or even the voices. In fact, a YouTuber named Ray, I can't pronounce their surname, made a video on people finding Anna attractive. A video called Polygon Lovers. Take these claims with a grain of salt though, because with the internet, it's hard to tell if people are being serious or just joking around. Or perhaps just chill. Stop and think the next time you see one of those comments. I mean, can you blame them? Just look at her! It's about time I say this. There's something rather ableist and offensive about people pretending to be yanderes. Because there's nothing quirky about killing and being too clingy. Some people have obsessive love disorder, which causes people to become excessively preoccupied with another person, often leading to unhealthy, obsessive behaviours. Many with this tend to lose friendships. As for the yandere playlists I actually listen to in order to help me write this story, a lot of the creators will state that these playlists aren't meant to glorify a yandere lifestyle. You don't need to feel guilty for listening to a yandere playlist, just so long as you don't take it to heart. Anyway, after I insult Sia's movie yet again, something we autistics love to do, Yumi suggests we play Kahoot. Before we can do that though, another person enters the group chat. As you can tell, this was inspired by the trailer to Unfriended, a movie which a lot of people parodied back when Vine was still up. After some more suspenseful waiting, it's revealed to be George's mum, who also wants to play Kahoot. And the mini-movie just ends.
Did someone say Kahoot?
That's There's Something About Rosie Volume 1. It was the first mini-movie I ever made on Gacha Life 2, so obviously there's some mistakes. Now let's answer the question, was it worth experimenting? Well, it was worth a try, I guess. You could say I took the Curious George route, making me feel bad for Chupo. Personally, despite the big risk I took, I still feel like telling a story about the dangers of parasocial relationships was important for the Gacha community. For anyone, really. It certainly didn't shy away from the side effects and how badly it can mess up your life. The character designs, mostly the clothing, really suited the vibe. You can tell this story takes place during the summer because a lot of the characters are wearing t-shirts, shorts, and dresses, etc. Rosie herself has quite the detail, judging from the red markings as if she's been roughly stitched up. I just hope I didn't make her look too much like a highlighter. The editing clearly needs some work. I'm usually decent when it comes to green screening, but only with Gacha Club. I could certainly do with some practice green screening with Gacha Life too. You can clearly see some spots inside their eyes. Voice acting, meanwhile, is okay, I guess. I suppose I did well voicing some characters. But once again, there's characters I can't perfectly get right. They were at least in character though. Most of them. With Rosie, I'm a tad bit worried if I made her sound annoying. All I wanted to do was make her sound eager and desperate. Touch-starved even. I basically chose a real-life voice actress to imagine behind the microphone and imagined her voicing said character. I basically stopped and asked myself, what if she voiced Rosie? What would Rosie sound like if she voiced her? To answer that question, I got inspired by Lizzie Freeman. With the text-to-speech voices, I don't need to repeat myself. I'll say this though. There were times where I actually laughed at how wrongly pronounced and weird the voices sounded. But if I'm honest, I prefer them to be inaccurate. If they were accurate and sounded like real-life people, that would put real-life voice actors at risk of losing their positions, and we don't want that now, do we? Coming up on my channel, the Joy Gang are halfway done with Chapter 3. I have some other cool ideas for the future. Since Dream Barbecue is finally playable, what if I read some short little Emma fanfictions on AO3? Would you be interested in that? Thirdly, the elephant in the room. Rahira has also asked me to write a Dark Deception fanfiction based on the horror game Seiko no Satoka. I'm not exactly comfortable with making that a gacha story. First, it's complicated finding a storyline on YouTube. Second, it's quite bloody and has this Playboy bunny outfit. Usually, I'm not afraid of adding a bit of edge into my stories, but I don't want to get carried away and let it all go to my head. It's definitely something that needs more thought. Besides, there's 2 fanfictions I'm almost finished with, and I want to get them done so I can put them on AO3. I also want to continue planning my Hope Castle family tree, and my Enna AU so I can write Ennafics. What about the rest of you? Is the Seiko no Sutoka inspired fic okay for pre-tween gacha viewers? Feedback and guidance can help me make the right decisions. What if I wrote it for AO3 and not gachify it? Because my AO3 versions of my fanfictions have more mature content. I made an AO3 account for people to care more about the story. For people whose gacha isn't their cup of tea. Again, that's what the comment section is for. Be warned that since the AO3 versions of my fics have more creative freedom, not everything will be for children. I just want to prove to society that I'm an adult despite the lisp. Remember to dress for the weather so you don't catch a cold. Sparkles, you have no idea. What happened to you is one of Stinger Fling's tricks. Oh, there you are, buddy. Where were ya when we needed ya? You left for the progressive sector. Is that where they're keeping everyone?
We have something more important to deal with right now. See Nab Nab's room? It's open now, which means he's inside.